The afternoon light filters through the old leaded glass windows of my childhood home, casting warm, golden patterns across the hardwood floor. Stopping by wasn't part of my plan today. A canceled meeting in Spokane opened an unexpected gap in my usually packed schedule, rare for a financial analyst with color-coded calendar blocks. I quietly closed the front door behind me, smiling at the familiar creak of the second hinge. Dad still promises to fix it, just like he's been promising for 10 years. My footsteps fall softly on the worn carpet runner as I make my way toward the kitchen, planning to surprise Mom with the artisan bread I picked up from her favorite bakery. Then I hear it, my name. Once the appraisal clears, we can list it. Brooklyn's payments were gifts. Mom's voice carries from the kitchen, calm and matter-of-fact, as if she's talking about the weather. I freeze, the paper bag crinkling in my tightening grip. Dad's chuckle follows, a sound that once felt comforting but now feels sharp. She doesn't even keep receipts, he says. Then Lacey's voice, soft, uncertain. But what if she finds out? I stand still, my pulse steady though everything inside me shifts. It's strange how the body stays calm while the mind falls apart. My analytical instincts kick in, organizing details even as my heart scrambles to process. My hand grips the doorframe, the wood pressing against my palm. This house I know by heart, the same one I've been paying for. 7 years. $92,000. Every payment labeled as temporary help until they could get back on their feet. Just last week, I sent a $1,700 mortgage payment. It still shows as pending in my banking app. I remember transferring it while waiting in line for coffee. Automatic, routine, because that's what family does. Then the realization hits. Sharp and cold, like sunlight after months of fog. Every odd moment makes sense now. The exchanged glances when I mentioned refinancing, the real estate brochures under the coffee table magazines, the casual questions about property values I'd brushed off. Growing up in this neat 3-bedroom craftsman meant always being the family workhorse. At 15, Dad handed me power tools, calling it character building, while Lacey stayed inside, praised for being delicate. Mom's favorite saying echoes in my mind. Family helps family. Somehow, that help always flowed one way, from me to them. I built my adult life around being dependable. In my Seattle apartment, my desk is lined with spreadsheets tracking every expense. I skip vacations to make these temporary payments possible. I wear last year's winter coat while they install new kitchen counters. I never questioned it, wanting their approval, needing to be the good daughter, the responsible one. A floorboard creaks beneath my foot. Mom appears, startled. "Brooklyn, we weren't expecting you." Her hands fidget with the necklace I bought her last Christmas. "Oh, we were just talking about some paperwork." The words leave my mouth before I can filter them. "No, you were talking about selling the house I've been paying for." Mom blinks rapidly, speechless. Dad steps forward, his tall frame blocking the hallway. "Don't be dramatic," he says dismissively. "Your help was a gift. That word, gift, lands hard." Mom quickly shifts tone, her voice dripping with practiced guilt. "After everything we've done for you, raising you," she starts. Lacey stands behind them, eyes down, small and silent. Just like when we were kids and I took the blame for her mistakes. For a moment, I almost believe there's another explanation. Maybe I misheard. Maybe there's some reason that makes sense. But then I remember the exact words. Brooklyn's payments were gifts. My spine straightens. My professional brain re-engages, already calculating how to document every transfer. My breathing steadies as clarity replaces shock. "I'll be in touch," I say evenly, turning toward the door. "Brooklyn, wait," Mom calls, panic creeping into her voice. She's never seen me walk away from a family argument before. But I keep walking. My steps are slow, controlled. I set the bakery bag on the entry table, a small offering to a place that no longer feels like home. Outside, the November air stings my cheeks. I slide behind the wheel of my old sedan, its engine humming as I drive off. The house fades in the rearview mirror, the porch where I spent summers sanding and staining while Lacey lounged with lemonade. The drive back to Seattle stretches ahead, but for the first time in years, it feels like freedom, not escape. The next day, Seattle rain streaks down my apartment windows as I spread financial records across my desk. Each statement adds to the picture, 7 years of regular transfers to my parents, increasing with every promotion I earned. I click open a folder labeled Family Finances and stop cold. 3 months ago, an email from Dad to Mom landed in my work inbox by mistake. The subject line alone made my stomach twist, words confirming what I had long suspected. Once we sell, we can finally stop depending on Brooklyn's checks. My hands shake as I open the mortgage statement I'd requested last week. The balance hasn't dropped a cent, not even after my $92,000 in contributions. Every payment disappeared into interest, or, more likely, their pockets. Then come the property tax documents, sealed in an official county envelope, making the betrayal undeniable. Only their names are listed as owners, not mine. Never mine. Even after I paid for the new roof, the plumbing repairs, and the code violation fixes, all from my own savings. I steady myself, open the calculator, and start adding the numbers. Direct transfers, $92,000 across 7 years. Labor and materials for home projects, roughly $38,000 more. The total stares back at me, cold and factual, and the pattern finally clicks. Every financial emergency matched perfectly with my pay raises. The roof money request came 2 days after I mentioned my promotion. The plumbing issue appeared the week my bonus hit. You're the smart one. Brooklyn, you understand money, Mom would say, her tone soft and admiring before asking for help. Family helps family, she'd remind me, and I'd always feel guilty, forgetting that help only ever flowed one way. My phone buzzes at 11:42 p.m. A text from Mom. We changed the locks. You don't live here anymore. Let's see how independent you really are. The message should sting. Instead, it brings an unexpected calm. Confirmation that I wasn't imagining their deceit. I type back, message received. Thanks for the clarity. No tears, no panic. Just a sharp, final awareness. They didn't just replace a lock. They severed the last link between us. Mom orchestrated everything. Every guilt trip. Every compliment masking a request. Always comparing me to my fragile sister, the one who needed care, while I was told to be tougher. She was the strategist, designing a system to drain value from her responsible daughter. Dad played his part flawlessly, managing the money, talking about investments but never showing records. His easy charm deflected every question before it became a concern. Morning light hits my desk when another notification appears, a real estate listing, their house. Our house. My investment, listed $40,000 above market value. With professional photos clearly taken weeks ago, they're accelerating the sale now that I know the truth. I pull open the bottom drawer, the one that sticks, and take out a green folder labeled Family, Contributions, Receipts, Transfer Confirmations, Text Requests, all neatly saved. The analyst in me never fully trusted them, even when I wanted to. A message from Janet pops up. Still on for lunch? Bringing Richard, the property lawyer I mentioned. Perfect timing. I reply 12:30 reservation. Then forward Mom's lock change text to Richard with a note. Does this show intent? His response comes fast. Absolutely. Bring everything. Soon my browser is filled with tabs on property law, constructive trusts, and unjust enrichment, terms I never thought I'd research for my own family. My friend Morgan calls. You okay? You never miss Sunday coffee. When I explain, she doesn't hesitate. My guest room's yours, for as long as you need. The bank confirms they can issue certified copies of every transfer. My stomach knots when the lawyer mentions his retainer. $5,000, almost my full emergency fund. But after reviewing my file, he nods. You have a strong case for equitable ownership. Financial manipulation like this is common. I've seen it before. His paralegal files the first motion that same afternoon, a temporary injunction to stop the sale. As I sign the check, he looks up. You okay? I'm fine, I answer, and realize it's mostly true. I just learned that my family treated me like a financial resource. Now I'm handling it the way I should have all along, like a business matter. The moment I hand him that check, my safety net becomes a legal weapon. And for the first time in years, my money is working for me instead of them. 3 days later, a cease and desist letter arrives on thick cream paper with a polished law firm logo. I trace the embossed print, half amused by the irony. My parents never spared expense when protecting themselves. You are hereby instructed to cease all defamatory statements regarding the property at 1742 Elmwood Drive. It reads, the tone is sterile, a sharp contrast to the tearful voicemails Mom's been leaving. Legal threats, proof that my silence scares them more than my accusations ever did. Then my phone rings again. Uncle Robert this time. The fifth family intervention call this week. Brooklyn, honey, how could you do this to your own parents? His voice carries that familiar disappointment, the tone adults use when you're 8 and scraped your knees. After everything they've done for you, I close my eyes, breathe steadily. Everything they've done for me, or everything I've done for them. This isn't about money, he insists. You're right, I reply quietly. It's about acknowledgement. It's about truth, he sighs. Your mother is devastated. Your father can't sleep. I picture the mortgage statements neatly stacked in my cabinet. 7 years. $92,000. They'll find comfort in their new kitchen countertops, I say. The ones I paid for. After he hangs up, I open Instagram despite myself. My sister Lacey's newest post shows her on our parents' porch swing. Caption, family is everything. Heartbroken that someone would choose money over love. 27 sympathetic comments from people who've never seen the transfer records. My scrolling is interrupted by the doorbell. A courier stands there with documents from my parents' attorney. The inventory shows they've started selling items from the house, including the antique desk my grandfather had specifically left to me. I place the papers on the kitchen table, beside the spreadsheets I've been updating for weeks, columns of dates, amounts, email screenshots, and text message logs, every financial exchange between my parents and me, documented with the same precision I apply in my corporate analyses. While I'm entering the latest figures, my boss, Grace, calls. Take all the time you need. Brooklyn, she says after I explain what's happening. The Johnson portfolio can wait. I thank her, though I admit that work keeps me centered. I might just need flexibility for court dates. You've got it, she replies. Also, our company attorney recommended someone, a property specialist who took a pro bono case last year. Brilliant woman, I jot down the number, a flicker of gratitude softening my anger. While my blood family is rallying against me, my chosen family builds steady support around my fragile resolve. That evening, I stop by my friend Martin's office, he works in property assessment, to collect a few documents. As I leave, I literally bump into my sister Lacey outside the coffee shop. Her eyes widen, then narrow sharply. Well, if it isn't the money-obsessed daughter, she says loudly enough for nearby tables to turn. I take a step back to create distance. Lacey, you're tearing this family apart over money, she says, her voice cracking with emotion. How could you do this to Mom and Dad? They gave you everything. For a brief moment, I see the younger sister who once followed me everywhere, who used to braid my hair with shaky hands, who cried when I left for college. Then I remember her hesitant words in the kitchen weeks ago. But what if she finds out? This isn't about money, I say calmly, even as my hands tremble. It's about acknowledgement, about recognizing my part in everything. Something flickers in her expression, maybe guilt. They're our parents, Brooklyn. They raised us. And I've been raising them financially for 7 years, I reply evenly. How long have you known about what they were doing? Her eyes drop. Confirmation enough. That's what I thought. I move past her but pause before exiting. They're selling Grandpa's desk, by the way, the one he left for me. Outside, I walk to my car and dial the number Grace gave me. Attorney Richard's office smells faintly of lemon polish and old books. Unlike other lawyers I've met, he doesn't type on a laptop. Instead, he spreads my records across a large oak desk, examining each page with focus. You've documented everything, he says, impressed. Bank transfers, text confirmations, email exchanges. I'm a financial analyst, I explain. Record keeping comes naturally. He nods, pointing to one particularly damaging email thread. They clearly acknowledge these payments were for the mortgage? Every month. For 7 years, he leans back thoughtfully. You have a strong case for equitable ownership, consistent contributions, explicit acknowledgement, and the improvements you made. Then his tone sharpens. But you need to understand something vital. I lean forward. Don't confront them. Don't warn them. Paper is your weapon, he says, calm but firm. We'll file an injunction to stop the sale. We'll document the harassment. Let them make the first move. For the first time since uncovering their betrayal, I feel the ground stabilize beneath me. I understand, I tell him. You have leverage they don't expect. He continues. They still see you as the obedient daughter who'll give in to family pressure, not the financial expert capable of dismantling their manipulation. As I leave his office, clarity settles in. My parents hadn't just taken advantage of me, they had engaged in financial exploitation. And now I had the proof. When I return home, a package waits by my door. Inside is a family photo, with my face cut out. The jagged edges speak volumes about my mother's state of mind. The sight pierces through my usual composure, and I sink to the floor, grieving the relationship that perhaps never truly existed. My therapist's words echo from our emergency session. This isn't revenge, Brooklyn. It's justice. Each night, I continue building my case. Digital archives of every transaction, financial summaries, voice notes recounting verbal promises, and a timeline revealing years of growing demands. My phone lights up with messages I don't answer. My mother's pleas, my father's threats, Lacey's guilt trips. I forward each to Attorney Richard, saying nothing. Let them make the first aggressive move, he'd advised, so I wait, silent, strategic, prepared. A week after forwarding one of my father's particularly harsh texts, I receive an official notice from their lawyer. They're requesting mediation. I allow myself a small, wry smile. Finally, they begin respecting boundaries through legal counsel. I open my laptop and click on the folder filled with emails I've been saving. Messages where my parents discuss me like a personal bank account. They calculate how much more they can take before cutting ties completely. My phone rings. It's Richard. We've been assigned to Judge Winters, he says, his professional tone unable to hide his excitement. She specializes in family financial abuse cases. For the first time in weeks, I feel something close to hope. The next day, the law office smells faintly of lemon polish and expensive cologne. My attorney, Richard Wallace, spreads documents across his polished mahogany desk as I go through our filing one last time. 35% equitable interest, I say, tapping the highlighted section. Based on my documented contributions, $92,000 over 7 years, Richard nods, silver hair glinting under the morning light. The motion to prevent property sale during litigation is ready, he confirms. Once filed, they can't sell without court approval. I slide forward my detailed financial analysis, 7 years of transfers, text messages about payments, even photos of me fixing the roof. Every piece of evidence fits neatly into a pattern of calculated manipulation. This is remarkable work, Richard says, genuine admiration in his voice. Most clients bring disorganized receipts. You've built a case worthy of a forensic accountant. I am a financial analyst, I remind him with a small smile. Numbers don't lie, even when people do. The deposition requests feel like declarations of war. Mom, Dad, Lacey, each name printed neatly in black ink, each requiring documents I know they never thought I'd ask for. My hand hovers over the signature line. 7 years flash before me, Christmas gifts I couldn't afford, vacations I skipped, a winter coat I patched instead of replaced, all while they planned to sell the house out from under me. I sign my name with steady fingers. Let's file today. 3 days later, Richard's call wakes me at 6 a.m. I sit up instantly. They've counterfiled, he says, claiming all transfers were gifts between family members. My stomach tightens, but my voice stays calm. We expected that. He hesitates. Their lawyer found a technical error, 1 digit off in the property parcel number. So the prevention order, temporarily suspended until correction, he finishes. And Brooklyn, they're accelerating the sale. The house goes on the market next Tuesday. Cold spreads through me, but panic won't help. I take a slow breath, counting to 5 as Dr. Martinez taught me. We'll file an emergency correction today, I say, swinging my legs off the bed, and request an expedited hearing based on the sale threat. It might not be enough, Richard warns. Their attorney, Margaret Winters, is sharp. We'll make it enough, I reply, replacing fear with focus. I'll be at your office in an hour. We'll work through the night if we have to. 3 days later, I catch my reflection in the elevator mirror at Richard's office. Dark circles under my eyes. Evidence of sleepless nights preparing for the hearing. The thought of facing my family in court tightens my chest. I use Dr. Martinez's grounding method. 5 things I can see. 4 I can touch. 3 I can hear. The courthouse looms ahead, marble and judgment. Ready? Richard asks as we climb the steps. No, I admit. But I'm going anyway. Inside, Mom, Dad, and Lacey sit with Margaret Winters, a sharp-featured woman in a tailored suit. Mom spots me. Her face flickers from surprise to rehearsed sympathy. The gallery is filled with familiar faces, family and friends they invited to witness my supposed disgrace. I straighten my posture and switch to professional mode. This isn't personal anymore. It's a financial presentation. Numbers, facts, evidence. My training to analyze without emotion becomes my strength. Judge Reynolds enters, a composed woman with keen eyes and practical shoes. Formalities begin, then Margaret stands. Your Honor, this is merely a family misunderstanding, she says smoothly. The plaintiff contributed as any family member would, with no intent of ownership. Richard counters firmly. We have evidence of a consistent pattern where the Harris family solicited specific funds for mortgage payments while planning property liquidation. Behind our client's back, a murmur passes through the gallery as he adds, additionally, we discovered yesterday that the defendants have been removing valuable items from the home before this hearing. Judge Reynolds raises an eyebrow. Is that true, Mrs. Winters? Margaret falters. My clients were simply organizing personal belongings. Then they won't oppose a court-ordered inventory, the judge replies. Dad's face reddens as he whispers angrily to Margaret, who gestures for silence. Their credibility unravels in real time as the judge makes notes. Friends they brought for support begin to shift uncomfortably. Richard continues methodically, texts labeled mortgage, help, transfers marked house payment, photos of me repairing windows, while my sister relaxed nearby. Your Honor, he concludes, we request an immediate injunction against the sale and expedited mediation. Mom tries to interject, her voice trembling in its familiar manipulative tone. Brooklyn has always been so emotional. Mrs. Harris, Judge Reynolds cuts her off. This court deals in financial evidence, not character opinions. I feel eyes turn toward me, people who've known me since childhood now seeing the truth. From the back, my former math teacher gives a small, approving nod. I'm ordering mediation before proceeding further, Judge Reynolds announces. The restraining order on the property sale is reinstated until resolution. 2 days later, we sit in the mediation room. I sit beside Richard, posture straight, breathing calm. Behind me, Emily from accounting is ready to validate every document I've prepared. In my mind, my therapist's words echo, you have the right to protect yourself. Mom and Dad enter, defensive and flushed. Lacey follows, avoiding eye contact. They look smaller now, no longer the figures who once controlled every part of my life. Richard slides a binder across the table. We're requesting a 35% equitable share, supported by verifiable contributions, he states calmly. Dad's reaction is immediate and loud. This is absurd, we're her parents. Margaret, our mediator, doesn't flinch. The court doesn't measure affection, Mr. Harris, she replies evenly, scanning the documents. It measures evidence. Mom's tears start right on cue. The mediator, practiced from decades of experience, simply passes her a tissue without breaking focus. You actually kept receipts? Lacey whispers, finally looking at me. I nod once, steady and sure. I kept everything. The silence that follows feels heavy. It's the moment they realize the daughter who once cleaned up their messes is now the woman they can't manipulate anymore. On the final day, the courthouse lobby hums with quiet chatter as I walk in beside Richard. 7 manila folders, each representing a year of my life, are stacked neatly in my arms. They're offering $45,000, Richard says, glancing at his phone. Final offer, I almost laugh. After investing $92,000 plus renovation costs, they think that will make me leave. Their predictable tactics don't sting anymore. Tell them we're proceeding as planned, I say, straightening my charcoal blazer. Richard nods, his silver frames glinting in the morning light. Fair warning, they've brought backup. He's right. Turning the corner, I see my parents whispering with Mrs. Peterson, our longtime family friend. She was there for every childhood milestone, and her appearance today is no coincidence. She approaches with open arms. Brooklyn, sweetheart, this has gone too far. Your parents are heartbroken. Are they? I ask evenly, keeping my emotions contained. They're scared of losing everything, she insists, her eyes glistening. They never meant... Tell them I received their settlement offer, I interrupt gently, and we'll see them inside. Her smile fades. They said the house needs a new foundation, $20,000 in repairs. They just can't give more, another lie. I'd paid for a foundation inspection 18 months ago. It passed. My phone buzzes again. Lacey. The third missed call today. I silence it. Outside courtroom C, Uncle Robert steps from a bench, blocking my way. His voice is low and sharp. You need to stop this. Your mother cries every night. Do you really want to destroy your family over money? The irony nearly makes me laugh. Interesting choice of words, Robert. Your father built that house with his bare hands, he says, raising his voice. And now you're taking it from them? I'm claiming what's legally mine, the equity I paid for. They'll lose everything. He sputters. They've lived in a mortgage-free home for 7 years, I reply calmly. They'll be fine, his face reddens. You always thought you were better. Too good for Spokane, too smart for your own family. Richard steps in smoothly. Mr. Harris, that's enough. Save it for court. As we walk away, my phone buzzes again. This time I answer. Brooklyn! Lacey pleads, her voice shaking. Please stop this. Mom and Dad will lose everything if you don't compromise. The guilt stirs, but I don't let it take over. They have options, Lacey. They always have. They're talking about old family things, she whispers. Stuff from when you were a teenager. They'll tell everyone if you push this. The warning hits cold. My past, my rebellious phase, the older boyfriend, the night Dad caught us, now turned into ammunition. Let them, I say quietly. I have nothing to hide. We step into the courtroom, its benches filling with relatives. This was never supposed to be public, but my parents made sure it would be. 10 minutes before the hearing, Richard's phone buzzes. He frowns. New development? They've found someone claiming you said the money was a gift. Who? Thomas Wilson. Your ex from college, of course. The one who borrowed tuition money and never repaid it. Dad's fishing buddy was his uncle. The connection is clear. Can they use that? I ask, uneasy. They can try, Richard replies. But we're ready. The text messages show repayment was expected. That's our strongest proof. My stomach tightens. What about the bathroom renovation receipts? The contractor went out of business, I admit. I don't have them. For the first time, doubt creeps in. What if 7 years of records aren't enough? Focus on what we have, Richard reminds me. Intent is what matters most. The judge enters, a respected expert in family financial disputes. Her sharp eyes take in every detail as proceedings begin. My parents' story paints them as generous parents helping their daughter buy into a family home. But under questioning, their narrative begins to crumble. Mrs. Harris, Judge Winters begins, you're saying there was never any discussion about selling the house? Never, my mother insists. This was Brooklyn's home too, Richard stands. Permission to play Exhibit C, Your Honor. Mom's voice fills the courtroom. Once we sell, you and your father can finally take that Alaska cruise. The color drains from her face. Dad shifts uneasily in his seat. Mr. Harris, the judge says, you testified that you never promised to repay these funds. Is that correct? That's right, Dad answers firmly. They were gifts among family. Richard retrieves his tablet. Your Honor, I'd like to present Exhibit F. A text message from Robert Harris to Brooklyn, dated June 14th of last year. On the screen appears Dad's message. Thanks for covering the property taxes again. We'll square up when the market improves. Dad hesitates. That was just a figure of a speech. Judge Winters raises an eyebrow slightly. Then comes the moment I've prepared for since that November afternoon in the hallway. Richard wheels in a cart loaded with 7 binders, each labeled by year. Your Honor, we present Brooklyn Harris's complete financial contribution record. For the next 40 minutes, the courtroom sits in stunned silence as Richard carefully outlines every dollar: mortgage payments, property taxes, renovations, and repairs, all backed by bank statements, receipts, and emails. Ms. Harris began these payments at age 22, Marianne explains, increasing her contributions as her salary grew. The timeline shows payments rising from $700 monthly to $1,700 as I advanced from entry-level analyst to senior position. And finally, Richard says, Exhibit G, the email that initiated this legal action. The projector displays Mom's message to the real estate agent. Brooklyn's payments were gifts. She has no legal claim. Beside it appears another email sent just 3 days later. We changed the locks. You don't live here anymore. A murmur ripples through the courtroom. Uncle Robert stares at the floor. Aunt Patricia's mouth falls open. The story of the ungrateful daughter collapses instantly. Lacey takes the stand as their final witness, but her testimony falters under cross-examination. Did you know your parents planned to sell the house? Richard asks. Lacey glances at our parents, then lowers her eyes. Yes. Did you know they intended to exclude Brooklyn from the proceeds? A pause. Yes. Even though she paid the mortgage for 7 years? She could afford it, Lacey mutters. I couldn't. Next, the financial forensic expert testifies, calculating my total contributions, including improvements and interest, at $117,300. Based on current market value, he concludes, that equals roughly a 35% equity stake in the property. Judge Aitrap, Winters doesn't take long to deliberate. The court finds that Brooklyn Harris has proven an equitable interest of 35% in the property at 1472 Ridgeline Avenue. She orders the home sold, with proceeds divided accordingly under court supervision. My parents' attorney immediately requests an appeal. Appeal denied. Judge Winters announces decisively. The evidence is conclusive. I remain still as the verdict settles in. There's no sense of victory or resentment, only relief, a quiet release from the burden I've carried for far too long. As the court adjourns, Mom steps forward hesitantly. Brooklyn, we need to discuss this as a family. I collect my papers without lifting my eyes. My silence says everything words can't. Outside, the autumn light spills across the courthouse steps. I turn to Richard, my voice calm. Thank you. What happens next? He asks. They'll sell the house. I'll receive my portion. Then we move forward. The outcome takes shape in figures. The house valued at $740,000. My share $259,000 after legal expenses. Enough for a new start, a down payment in Seattle's Capitol Hill, a space that's fully my own, built on trust and independence. As I head to my car, I glimpse my family gathered nearby, Mom, Dad, and Lacey, already making plans for their rental duplex on the east side. Their world has shifted. I'm no longer its anchor. I drive away without glancing back. The road ahead belongs solely to me now. 3 months later, a brass key rests solidly in my hand as I stand before my townhouse door. Sunlight filters through windows I chose myself, illuminating hardwood floors laid by my own decision, free from anyone's judgment or influence. The settlement made this possible, though not all of it sits in these walls. I recall my financial advisor's approving nod when I told her, I want my money to work for me, not just rest in bricks and paint. We structured the purchase wisely, half financed, half paid outright, balancing security with growth. The locksmith clears his throat behind me. Ready for the new deadbolts, Ms. Harris? I hand over the locks I bought yesterday. Yes, install all of them, please. While he works, I move through rooms that hold only comfort. No crowded shelves of family memories that bring guilt. No furniture chosen to satisfy others. The walls, painted a soft sage instead of the navy blue my mother preferred, mirror something simple yet profound, my own values. At last, every part of this space now exists free from their control or quiet influence. For the first time, my finances are truly mine. No support payments disguised as family duty. No secret transfers at midnight to cover someone else's declined card. The burden of their expectations has lifted, leaving space to simply breathe. When the locksmith finishes, he hands me 3 shining keys all ready. I trace the ridges with my thumb, recalling that awful day 7 months ago when my key stopped working in my parents' door. They had changed the locks while I was gathering papers for my lawyer, an unmistakable message of rejection. Now, I replace locks out of choice, not desperation. Later, I place the old brass deadbolt from my parents' house, the one I removed before their locksmith arrived, into a small wooden box. It's the last remnant of the life they excluded me from. I close the lid firmly and slide it onto the top shelf of my closet. That evening, an email from Lacey appears, the subject line dripping with the same old manipulation, family healing needed. I open it, not with dread but with curiosity. Her message unfolds exactly as expected. Half-hearted apologies, vague talk of misunderstandings, and soft attempts at blame shifting. What once would have thrown me into guilt now reads like a script I've seen too many times. I delete it and block the address. No anger. Just calm certainty. The clean break stays unbroken. That night, I write in my journal, my worth isn't defined by what I give to others. The words come easily after months of therapy. My greatest weakness, over-responsibility, and the constant need for approval finally has a name, and controlled dependability doesn't mean being used. Boundaries protect. They don't punish. The next morning, I meet my attorney to revise my will, leaving nothing to my former family. We set up confidential address protection for security, and I signed documents establishing a legal aid fund for victims of family financial abuse, turning my own pain into purpose. The first recipient meets you next week, my attorney says. A young man whose parents drained his college fund. I nod. I'll share my story anonymously. That weekend, friends who stood by me through the hardest times fill my new home with laughter. We exchange thoughtful, modest gifts that carry meaning instead of status. Their sincerity reminds me how often I mistook manipulation for love. After they leave, I stand at the window watching the Seattle sunset wash the sky in pink and gold, no phone in hand, no anxious checking for messages, no guilt for enjoying the quiet. Later, I open the wooden box one final time, looking at the old brass lock before putting it away for good. Home isn't where you're born. I whisper into the still room that feels more like home than any before. It's where you're valued. I close the box with finality. Revenge fades quickly. I murmur, thinking of the young man I'll soon help. But justice endures.